piece of paper. I underlined those verses of the prayer of Hezekiah in red in the Bible. I wrote down on a piece of paper, put it in my pocket, my coat pocket. So when I traveled on the tramway, you see, I could memorize that. And I've done that now for 45 years, and I'm still memorizing things, you know. Because Hilda says to me once, she said, "Are you still memorizing?" I said, "Yeah." "Why are you memorizing? You know so much of the Bible and everything." I said, "Well, I need some more. You gotta have, keep feeding yourself spiritually." And that was the blessing that it was. I saw there a beautiful deliverance. And then I read the rest of the chapter, and it shows that during the night, the angel of the Lord went out. So when the general and his officers woke up in the morning, they look over the camp, and all their soldiers were dead. And they took off for Nineveh before they were done in. And he went to the temple of Nisroch, his god, and Sennacherib. And while he was worshiping there, his sons came in and put a dagger in his back. And they fled to the land of the Arameans. I was very impressed with that. And I left the Bible open there. I had my worship. When my friend came over, the Bible was still there. So,
whenever your friend Roland came over, you had just finished your worship time and you had read the story about Sennacherib. Mm-hmm. What did he say? Did he feel agitated? Was he upset?
Oh, yeah. He came in and sat himself down and he said, "I can't believe it. Not, of all people," he says, "not Morno would do a stupid thing like daring the spirits." You know? He said, you're an intelligent man, Roger. You know, you got a choice. The high priest tells me that if you come to see him with me now, no problem. Everything is going to be straightened out of the spirits. He promised them that already. He got that assurance. And he said, let's do the right thing. Why gamble with your life? I said, well, I'll tell you what. I don't feel like going to see the high priest. Now or ever. And we conversed about a number of things, and he said, well, I hate to have to tell you this, but seeing that you decided that you're not going to have anything to do anymore with the master and his people, I hate to tell you this, that the high priest told me that a price has been put on your life. A medical doctor, remember, gave me the name, has pledged $10,000 to have you done in.
How did you feel whenever you found out that you had a contract out on your life?
Well, it surprised me a little, but I had prepared myself for something worse. So that it didn't bother me too much. Because, see, the strength of the Lord, the word of the Lord was, the Spirit of God was giving me strength.
Okay, was the presence of the Spirit of God evident to Roland there that Sunday morning?
As we talked, and now he decided that he was losing the battle. He became very nervous. And he got up and went to the door, put his hand on the door, and we talked there. He says, "Morno, please, if it's not for your sake, do it for me. Do you realize what's going to happen to me if something happens to you? I don't know how they're going to treat me." I said, "Hey, man, let me tell you something. I got a suggestion for you. You come with me. I'll guarantee you all the protection that you need to live the ripe old age. And beside that, I'll tell you what. You should go back and tell the high priest and all his boys to come to our church. I'll arrange with my minister to have 100 spaces there, right off the center aisle." I felt like I'm making them an invitation. Well, he says, "I would never say a stupid thing like that." He says, "Well, that's your responsibility." I said, "No, things are settled." He lit a cigarette, and as he lit the cigarette, I saw his hand shake like this. And I said, "You're quite nervous." "Well, let me tell you," he says, "there's a power here a presence that I'm not accustomed to. I'm very uncomfortable because there's a power here that makes me terribly uncomfortable. Well, I said, you know what it is? It's the presence of the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the Creator, the life giver. And I said, every other power is subject unto that higher power. You're aware of that? Oh, yeah. So that's the way that it ended. He decided to go.
He told you that you had a contract put out in your life.
Yeah.
How did you respond to him? He was nervous, but he said
yes.
to you, you're walking under the shadow of death, Morneau. How did you respond?
I said, my friend, I've got some news for you. Not so much for you as it is for the high priest. And now the Spirit of God gave me very special righteous indignation. Have you ever heard of that terminology? That when I heard that they were going to do me in with, have me shot, I said, look, I got some news for the high priest and his boys. The day that they wipe me out and they do me in will be the day that the life giver is going to pull the bread of life on all of them except the high priest. And there'll be dead cadavers there in the temple. And tell the high priest this: don't call funeral directors because they don't have enough, ambulance, but what do you call
Coffins?
The wagon.
Oh,
hearses. Hearses. I said, you better call the fire department of Montreal. Then you pile them all up there, the whole 100 of them. I said, this is what's going to take place. He said, you're a fool. I said, you think so? Let me show you something. Picked up the Bible, and I said, I'm going to tell you a little story. Make it short. He said, short because he says, I'm going. I said, listen to this. I just read this morning. There's a man by the name of Hezekiah that believed in the Creator a few hundred years back. And let me tell you what happened to him. Sennacherib came with his armies, told him the story. He went before the Lord and prayed about it. And the Lord says the way that Sennacherib came, that's the way he's going to go home. And during the night, 185,000 men were destroyed by the angel of the Lord. So I said, don't tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. I said, I can assure you that if they put a bullet in me, they're all going to lose out. Because the Creator will remove the breath of life. And I felt as sure of that as if it was a prediction that I think the Lord would have backed up my word.
So how did he respond after you told him that story?
Well, he said, I guess he says that I've lost my time. Before we part, he says, I don't want to even shake your hand because you're not a friend of mine no more. I said, have it your way. If ever we meet one another anywhere in the city of Montreal, don't you ever look at me like you know me, because I'll ignore you and embarrass you, he says, wherever we are. I said, fine. No problem with that at all.
Now, Roger shared with you that his former associates that worship demons, that were part of that elite spirit worship group in Montreal, were very unhappy with him, as were the demonic powers, for studying, especially with Seventh-day Adventists.
That's right.
Did he ever share with you or tell you that there might be some danger involved for you?
He did tell us something that's rather startled me. He said he got a call from somebody in that organization, and they threatened our lives, and they knew us by name. And of course, nobody followed him. And I had to assume that the powers of darkness were able to communicate to those people that worshipped what our names were. They knew our names. And the things, some of the events that followed were such that I attributed them to demon powers.
Cynthia, there was an event that was a little startling to you and to Cyril, and I know Roger was interested in it as well. You had a fire at your house shortly after the Bible studies were going on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Shortly after the Bible studies, we were sitting, were living with my father at the time. So we had a very large front room, pretty large front room. And we were sitting in the room, and my brother came up, who